All right, so welcome back to the Shardbreaker podcast. We are on episode 5. I am Midnight and I am here with Darkness
Hello.
and Mythic.
Hello.
We did chapters 19 through 22 this week, right? You guys always
Nope.
joke.
50. We went to 50.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. I'm sure
It's
you
Right,
did.
Darkness?
Ron. Yeah.
Right, Darkness? We totally went to 50. We know the entire story already.
Mm-hmm.
We're just here faking it.
I'm sure. All right, so I guess we'll just go straight in.
Yeah,
So
can't you tell from my lifeless expression?
are you Claude now?
Hey! New person that we haven't seen yet.
Yeah, we'll get to Claude. All right, so yeah, we start chapter 19 with Vivenna as she, Dent, and Tonkfa are checking out a new house. It's apparently a 3-floor row house, so technically 2 floors and like a cellar. There's palm trees on either side to help prevent people spying on them. And it's stated as being less ostentatious than Lemex's previous house, but and modest by Halandran standards, but apparently it's almost as large as the Idrian castle. So, like, apparently they just have giant houses here in Halandran compared to Idris. Um, apparently just absolutely massive. Um, and then yeah, so they've apparently spent a bunch of money on furniture, which I think Parlin had gone to pick up so that they could keep up appearances because I think Vivenna did not want to spend money on it, but Denth was like, we don't want the neighbors asking questions, basically. And yeah, Denth has hired a gang of burglars to ransack Lemex's old house some more, and that way when the city guard show up eventually, they'll just assume the place had been burglarized, and he paid the nurse off so that no one will be there to claim Lemex's body, and it can be burned and the house forfeited because they obviously don't want to be anyone to associate them with Lemex. And Vivenna is feeling very awkward about pagans dealing with Lemex's body, but she's reminded by Dent, or I think she's reminded that he held breasts that her father paid for, and she also now holds them. So she's a little uncomfortable with the whole thing, but I think that's kind of just what happens when you're a spy and you don't want to be caught associating with a spy. Um, and then yeah, so they end up sitting on the floor and discussing plans. With Dent states that he wants to get Vivenna in contact with Var's allies, who we learn got his breasts from people working in the dye fields to try and revolt against the overseers of the fields. So apparently Var was just like this like lowly like worker in these dye fields. Apparently like people are pretty poor, all the workers out in the dye fields. And yeah, that's how his revolt started. So that's a little bit more information on him. And Dent says they can use the leftover field workers to revolt to cause a distraction. And Dent also mentions potentially raiding the lifeless storage warehouse. And the final suggestion is raiding merchant caravans to disrupt food and other supplies. Vivenna mentions she doesn't want the people of Halandran to starve, but Denth mentions how Halandran is trying to go to war with Idris, and that once they have an heir, they'll want to kill everyone else of the royal bloodline. So that he's just like, they're gonna kill you, they're gonna kill your family. Like you need to not worry about them. So yeah, what do you guys think about their plans?
I mean, don't all talk at once. No. I thought Darkness was going to take that, but I think their plans are pretty sound in comparison to what they should be. You know what I'm saying? Like they're revolutionaries, or at least that's how they're seen. They're trying to create what the city doesn't want, which is like chaos, so that the war will be favored on the Venice side. So it's kind of what you have to do in that scenario.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Darkness?
Hmm. Um. Honestly, in my opinion, I think that like it makes sense to go with that sort of plan, but there's also so many risk factors because of the amount of exposure you're gonna go through.
Mm-hmm. Especially, I think they said the lifeless raiding that lifeless warehouse. Like that's probably
Yeah.
pretty well guarded.
Yeah.
I think Dent mentions specifically that it's going to be very dangerous, but that dangerous jobs pay well, so they're happy to do it.
pretty sure he also made the joke about hazard pay.
Yeah, that's what it was. It was hazard pay. Was what he specifically said about it. Also, do you think they'll actually be able to accomplish all of these plans that they have?
Nope, not at all.
You think it's too
Plans never
much?
go.
I
Plans
think
never
Vivenna's
go.
gonna screw it up
Oh,
with her moral high ground.
You said no as well, Darkness?
yeah, no, plans never go as, well, planned.
Yeah. At least
But,
they have plans, though. I mean, Vivenna didn't have much plans when she came into the city, especially with Lamex
yeah.
being dead
hmm
pretty quick. She was just pretty much going to rely on him, it seemed like. So now she's kind of like, oh, fuck. But yeah, so after they're discussing their plans, the door bursts open and a lifeless soldier walks in, which causes Vivenna to freak out and tries to get Denth and Tonkfa to attack, but they're just like sitting there being like, oh no, we're gonna be executed. The city guard has found us. Oh no. That's how I imagine them saying it, just like
That's how
super.
it's said in the audiobook too.
Yeah. And yeah, then they just
Oh
begin laughing.
no.
Oh no, whatever will we do? But yeah, so it's notice that the lifeless, who we learn is named Claude, is carrying canvas bags, and we meet Jules. And Jules mentions that he is back in the city. Dent says that he owes him a sword through the gut, and that he was a better swordsman than Arsteel, who was killed by the man they're discussing. It's then brought up that apparently the mercenaries have had Claude for months, and it just apparently just never came up. They just never just decided not to mention it. Denth also likens Lifeless to swords and tools, and states that many people in the city own them. What do you think about considering Lifeless like tools? Do you think they have any humanity left, or are they really just like kind of like robotic, like tools to be used for your disposal?
Their corpses, of course, they're tools. Like, it's unfortunate, but like, it's either you're dead in the ground, or burned, cremated, or whatever, or you're walking around helping somebody, which you then become a tool. I mean, it's the same as any other tool, in my opinion.
What do you think, Darkness?
Oh, there's so many like different things I could say. Considering that the fact that they were people, so you gotta respect that,
hmm
like
Why?
Vivenna's sort of point of view.
Why do you
Okay,
have to respect that though?
I mean,
you
Vivenna
got
does. There's different
Well,
people
yeah,
have a lot of
yeah,
different
yeah.
opinions on
Well,
corpses.
my question isn't trying to. I'm not trying to like attack you about your
I know,
opinion,
I
Darkness. But like, I think, what is your opinion, not Vivenna's opinion, but what's
uh,
your
I
opinion
I know, but
on?
you gotta think about it. Not everyone's gonna be want isn't gonna want to be used that way.
Mhm.
So it's gonna be disrespectful to the person if they obviously don't want to be used in that sort of way.
Okay,
Um,
so let's say like organ donors, right? You pre-give consent to use your organs when you die.
uh-huh.
How is that any different than giving, like, if they gave pre-written consent of using their bodies when they die?
Well,
Like,
I think what Darkness is saying
But
is you have to respect their way either way. Like it's yeah, it would be you either give consent before you die or you don't use them as lifeless.
yeah, but I severely doubt that they ask for consent in order to,
Well,
I
make
think they
profit.
asked somebody for consent,
I
which you
they
find
might
out
ask the
later.
families because like it might be similar
Yeah.
to how people sell their breath. Like we don't know much, but it could be similar to
Mhm.
like you're poor, your family member dies. Instead of you might
Sell
not be
the
able to pay
corpse.
for a funeral, so you sell their corpse to be used as a lifeless because you're poor.
I mean, and then it's brought up by Vivenna, but or not Vivenna, but name not Togfall, the other one, Dent.
Dent?
It's brought up, but then they technically no longer have a soul. Technically, in like Vivenna's view of what a soul is, they
Mm.
are now soulless creatures, and so technically, that's what you're using. You're using the body. You're not using the soul. So like the soul passes on. It's just a body. I mean, in my opinion, it's a lot better than putting it in a box under the ground.
To be fair, also, Vivenna though also considers Drab basically to be soulless. So I mean,
Yeah.
but
I Yeah, but I'm also like wondering how the preservation works. of the body.
Oh yeah, well, like they're just walking around and they're not decomposing.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
apparently not
Yeah.
decomposing. So we don't know
it must
exactly
be.
how
It
that all
must be one of
works.
the. It must be one of the magical things of this world.
Yeah, we'll eventually get a little bit more about how lifeless are created in Vasher's chapter later, but for
Mm-hmm.
now that we don't have much about that. Um, but yeah, so anyways, Jules has brought Denth and Totfa some weapons. They've got some large swords, some daggers, and some shorter swords, which they're pretty happy about. And then Denth notices how uncomfortable Vivenna is and says if she can't work with Jules and Claude, then he'll quit and she can hire someone else. And he also briefly makes a comment about the five visions, which makes Vivenna wonder how he knows about ostrism. Denth then tries to convince Vivenna to become an awakener, and she refuses. She's like, that's not happening. So I'm just curious, what do you think about how? Why do you think Denth knows about ostrism? Do you think it's just like he's just heard about it? Like he seemed to like know a bit about, which apparently. Do you think it's just people of Halandron know more about that than she would expect them to, or does he have like specifically looked into it?
I mean, he seems like a very intelligent person, especially when it comes to later. But
Mm-hmm.
like, so I feel like if he didn't look it up, he might have lived in some place that also followed the same teachings, whether it be her own city or a different city that just has the same ideals. But I feel like it's probably that kind of concept that it was a different city, the same ideals.
Yeah, I think they just have ties to like, you know, that sort of area. Like they know
Mm-hmm.
someone or like they've experienced what like they've seen what other people experience throughout like that sort of religion.
Mm-hmm. And I
I,
mean,
I don't think I don't think it's that obscure of a knowledge
yeah,
since
no,
it
I
is it
mean,
is a religion,
we don't
so
know why Vivenna would be confused about that. I mean, to be fair, the Adrians seem to look down a lot on the Halandrins because they're like, oh, they're pagans, they're rebels. So she might
yeah.
just assume like, oh, no one in
They know
Halandron would even
nothing.
bother to
Yeah,
understand other religions, but like people, even if it's people generally do know about religions, even if it's not their own. Like they don't know
yeah.
maybe everything,
Mhm.
but they do know probably some basic tenets of a lot of different religions, even if you don't worship it.
Mhm.
So yeah, it could. I feel like it's either hinting at like I mean, we find out later as Mythic mentioned that like Denth has a bit more depth to him than he tries to let on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but also I think Vivenna just has a lot of biases and she looks down on the people of Halandron a lot. So could be either or
I
both.
I feel like she looks down on them, but I feel like she also kind of like pities them. Like she believes that they're not all evil people, but like just led astray, I guess.
Yeah, I think she thinks like the people in power are definitely evil, and yeah,
Mm-hmm.
she
Oh
probably
yeah.
feels like the people who are kind of like lower down in like society are probably yeah, just like I mean you live where you live, right? You don't
Mm-hmm.
always get to
I mean,
choose.
yeah, because I believe once it's explained later that they use or well, they use one breath or whatever. She kind of has like that uh, feeling of like regret for them, as in like
Hmm.
she's sad for the people that are just giving away their breath to these gods.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's shown that Vivenna is a very compassionate person, but she also has a lot of biases against, obviously. I mean, her from their view of history, like her family's been like kicked out and like a lot of bad stuff has
Mm-hmm.
happened to her people. So like I feel like her biases are somewhat justified in a
Oh yeah,
way.
100%.
Yeah. And but yeah, I think she is a very compassionate person, I feel like. But yeah, and then I feel like the most interesting part of their conversation is Jules and Denth go back to talking about the man from earlier, who we learn is Vasher. Uh,
No, they said no. His name is
No, I was going
Tax.
by. Yeah, we learn it's Vasher, who is also goes by the name Tax. You didn't let me finish my sentence.
Well, I mean, they don't explain that he's Vasher till after. Like
Yeah.
they address him as Tax,
Yeah.
which made me think, okay, maybe it's somebody completely different all of a sudden. And then they said Vasher,
Yeah, well then
and I
they
was like,
they
ah,
they mention the sword, which kind of gives
well,
away.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, and they also mentioned the bodies,
Yeah, I was
which
gonna get into
is
that. Is
finally somebody notices them.
Yeah, so we learned that the wounds specifically left by Nightblood are they call them corrupt and black, which we'll get into a little bit about Nightblood, how Nightblood like hurts people later again. We learn
Yeah.
more about him later, but yeah, and they describe Vasher as bad trouble and someone who doesn't like people and has strange motivations. It's also mentioned that he's interested in the war. They mentioned that Vasher isn't as good a duelist as Arsteel and Dent, and that they can't believe he beat Arsteel fairly. They seem to have thought he cheated, even though Arsteel did not have those black and corrupted wounds from Nightblood. Vivenna then mentions that she saw Vasher, and Dent curses and says he definitely knows who Vivenna is and is probably planning to kill her. And Tonkfa tries to reassure Vivenna by saying Vasher wants to kill them too. So yeah, what do you think about these opinions of Vasher?
Probably not unfounded, that's for sure.
I'm just wondering how close they were at some point, considering that they seem to know him pretty well.
Yeah, it sounds like he might have been part of their crew,
That's what I was thinking.
or at least like worked with them a fair bit based on how they talk about him
Well,
here.
I mean, later when they explain how brief understanding of how they all came to know each other in a way,
Mm-hmm.
um, it could be explained that he was a very good swordsman or whatever, and they saw that and said, okay, well, we need the best of everything, so we're gonna bring him in, or maybe he was a good awakener at one point.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still sitting on the theory though that he was at one point one of the gods here, but
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, we do learn that neither Tax nor Vasher are I believe, his original names. So I think they say at one point, oh, he's going by Vasher right now.
mm-hmm. Yeah,
He's going by Tax at the time.
known as tax, yeah.
Yeah, known as Tax back
Yeah,
then.
they didn't. Yeah, they never assume his name completely.
Yeah. And I mean,
They
as far
had
as
to
we know,
nowadays.
Jules, Dent, and Tonkfa aren't their real names either. Like, it probably makes sense that you wouldn't go by your real name when you're doing this sort of work.
But what kind of a name is Dent?
Exactly.
Um, yeah, I don't know that Tax is a bit of a weird name. I mean, so is Jewel. I mean, I guess Jules is a little less weird, but they're
Oh,
both kind
Jules
of
as well.
just name. They're
And
both
then
just words.
Tonkfall definitely seems like it's a normal name.
Yeah, Dent and Tonkfa, based on like other names we've seen, I feel like are more normal. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Vasher seemed more normal to me than Tax.
Yeah, true. But I mean, then again, you also have gods that are called like Light Song and Dreamweaver.
Well, I mean, the gods though have very obvious like given names based on like that's supposed to like represent them. I don't think they're supposed to be like normal people names like because they're above people.
Mm. Maybe or Vasher became Vasher or Tax. His name is actually Nightblood.
You think Vasher's god name was Nightblood and that's why he calls the sword Nightblood?
Yeah, maybe he put his godliness into the sword.
I mean,
I
Nightblood is
mean,
much more of a god's name than Vasher or
yeah, and
Tax.
and I mean, even later when you find out what with that, he even just in the beginning, he's very childlike.
Mm-hmm.
Like Nightblood
Yeah,
is just such a child,
he
so he
is. I
can't have.
love him.
I
He's
feel
like
like
a
he.
he's a
Yeah, I
petulant
feel like
little
he can't
child.
have been. Yeah, I can't feel like he's been alive that long.
Mm.
So I mean,
Honestly, Nightblood's one of my favorite characters. I love his little interactions. They make me so
wait,
happy.
I thought Jules and wow, I can't remember that dude's name now.
Claude?
But lifeless, yeah,
No, they're not my
were your
favorite.
favorites.
No, no, no,
Ah,
no, no.
Hmm.
Uh, Nightblood. Night. I have two favorites, and Nightblood's one of them. So I like a lot of the characters, but Nightblood's one of my favorite. Just because I love his little interactions and pouting and stuff. It's just so cute.
hmm.
I love evil swords, apparently. Well, not evil, but like murderous.
Oh man, if I ever run a D&D campaign for you, I know what to give you.
Anyways, Darkness, did you have any other opinions about Basher, or should we move on to the next chapter?
I think we're good.
We're good? Alright.
Yeah.
Uh, so we're going into I think probably my favorite chapter of this episode, which is we're going into Ciri's POV. So Ciri is neither tired nor nervous while waiting outside the God King's chambers. Bluefingers is there watching her silently, for once not scribbling in his ledger, which is noticeable because he's always scribbling in his ledger. It's apparently been a week since she first climbed into bed instead of sleeping on the floor, and the God King still has yet to touch her. The priests are also leaving her alone, and she feels she's beginning to learn the social dynamics of the palace. So a quick question I wanted to ask here is, do you think Ciri's actually getting better with the social dynamics, or do you think she's maybe just like naive and thinks she knows more than she does?
I think she's definitely naive, but man, I think they're probably just kind of understanding and figuring out like her mannerisms and are working around them now
Hmm.
to make her feel as if she is much more at home here.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Darkness?
I think she's actually learning how to navigate around this stuff, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Because from what I've read, a lot of people seem to think of her as actually naive when it's
Yeah.
just like her personality and her temper that make her seem like, it's a little too much, a little extra, a little
And I
not,
They
you
haven't
know.
seen her. They haven't seen her temper yet.
only the
Well,
God King has. Oh,
Yeah,
and Light Song, I
and,
think.
and, oh yeah. Lightsong did get a bit of it too,
Yeah.
I guess.
I
But I
think
mean, like
yeah,
the majority of them haven't.
Yeah, I was gonna say also, I think Bran is doing a lot of kind of like parallels and also like almost switches between Ciri and Vivenna, where Vivenna's becoming more
More like Siri.
impatient. Yeah,
yeah.
more like Ciri, and Ciri's almost becoming more like Vivenna. Like Ciri's getting more confident with
Oh
everything,
yeah,
whereas
yeah.
Vivenna's
We
becoming
kind of
less
we
confident.
we kind of glossed over the fact that when Claude walked in, her hair went white without her
Yeah,
wanting it to,
Yeah.
like, which is not like Vivenna from what we were,
yeah, she was
introduced to.
perfectly in control of her
Yeah,
hair at all times before. And like we're not getting a lot of like mentions anymore of Ciri's hair suddenly turning white. Like she was controlling it to be blonde to match the dress previously, and like we're not getting a lot of those like sudden changes where they're doing a big like kind of switch in confidence levels. It seems like, which I always
Suddenly,
find interesting.
suddenly we're gonna read, and it's gonna be like Vivenna was in the God King's chamber.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, so we then have Bluefingers speaking to Ciri, who states that she's doing her duty to produce an heir, and he's like, yeah, no, that was the danger that I was trying to warn you of,
Mm-hmm.
was producing an heir. And Bluefinger says she must not have a child, as it'll put both herself and the God King in danger. Bluefinger's
And
also
the God
yeah, we're
King.
gonna get to. I'm gonna ask questions about that.
Oh
I
God.
gotta finish this little section, but yeah. Bluefingers also states that he will no longer wait with Ciri outside the God King's bedchambers, and that she should wait about 100 heartbeats before entering after the servants let her into the hallway. Which I don't know how you like time 100 heartbeats. Like I don't count my hearts. I don't know how to I don't know how to time that. But anyways, Bluefingers also says that he's a part of several factions within the palace, and that if she says anything to anyone, he could be killed. Apparently, the reason he is warning her is because there are things about the arrangement that he does not agree with. His only hint is for her to read her histories and that she just should have been more prepared before coming here. I have a couple questions about this because we get a lot of information right here. So, first of all, why do you think producing an heir is dangerous not just to Ciri but also the God King?
Okay, so when you say this, now I already have the knowledge of what happens
I
next.
know, I know.
So I so
You can
it
talk about it a little bit. I mean, we'll
yeah.
get into
So
that more,
my
but
brain is already wrapping around what happened next in
yeah.
this chapter. So like I already have I had the feeling, but like it much more solidified. But if she produces an heir, they're just gonna murder both of them, and then that'll be the new king kind of idea. Like I feel like what happened at some point is that this God King he's not like outwardly revolting against them, but he's also not assisting whatever the factions behind the scenes are. And so their idea was, okay, well we'll throw two birds with one, or we'll kill two birds with one stone. We'll get rid of the king.
Uh-oh.
Mythic? Oh
Mythic?
no. Mythic, you cut out.
Oh no.
I thought my headset cut out there for a second.
Uh,
I think he's still talking. I don't know. Mythic?
Mythic! Oh no.
Oh no. Do you want a message in Discord?
Why is my thing keep
Oh,
going out?
there we go. Welcome
I have to
back.
keep disconnecting it. What part did I miss? Where did I
Uh,
Uh,
stop?
so you were
I forgot.
saying
God
that
damn it.
you were at the part where you were saying that they were gonna kill two birds with one stone.
Okay, they're
Yes.
going to kill two birds with one stone, meaning like they're going to kill off all of the bloodline except for the heir, and then kill the God King because he isn't doing whatever they want him to do or producing the right results that they're looking for. So their idea is probably let's have them have an heir and then teach the heir how to be what we think is proper, and then we'll have basically an unstoppable machine with this new king that we can mold and puppet the way we want, which is what I feel like they tried to do with this king, but can't for some reason.
They like maybe messed up or like, I mean, we don't know how often the priests come and go. Maybe like he was raised with like different priests, and these priests have like
Possibly.
different motivations. What do you think, Darkness?
I'm more like wondering if the inheritance for like the breath of the previous king is instant.
Is what,
You
sir?
know what I
Oh,
mean?
instant.
Oh, I get what you're saying. So, like, as soon as she has the heir, or not, yeah, as soon as she starts to bear the heir, it instantly takes the breath from the king.
Yeah, let's say she's giving birth, right?
Hmm.
What if like there's no other choice but for the breath to go into the child?
Oh, that's
Considering cons-
oh
considering there is a lot of talk of it being stillborn, it would have
yeah.
to, you know,
Oh, you're right. That would make a
Hmm.
lot of sense. That the
and
king
then
has to save his own heir.
yeah, so in order for there to be like a successing like line, like a future line, he would have to give his breath somehow because he can't do it because of
Yeah, we find out later, but I
yeah,
mean, well,
but
it doesn't make sense to me on certain things. But yeah,
they
Hmm.
would just like use that
Well,
against him.
I believe they say that isn't it said in previous chapters that like he can do some voiceless commands
Yeah, so I'm
because
assuming
of how much of a heightening he has, so he might be able to like give breath without.
yeah. Well, if he does do that, they would just slaughter the wife as well. So
Hmm.
but they're already. I mean, there's already hints on that they're gonna do that anyways.
Yeah, I
uh,
mean, there's been a lot of hints that basically, as
Yeah,
soon
like
as she gives, I mean, I don't think she's caught on, but it's basically, it sounds like as soon as she gives birth, they're gonna be like, okay, we got our royal bloodline. Baby's good.
feel
Okay, let's
I
die.
I don't know. I definitely feel like she's spot on enough, but like
Yeah.
still somewhat naive to it because like she definitely said it. I said something to that extent about when they were leaving her homeland and on the way that that was a possibility that they would
Yeah.
uh,
only protect for however long.
Hmm.
uh
What the
I'm guessing she's just
hell?
frustrated with the amount of time that's been, like
Oh my god.
But also, so I had a couple other questions on that section. So, first
Mhm.
of all, what sort of factions do you think Bluefingers is a part of? What are these factions within the palace, and what do you think he's all involved in?
he's a ninja.
I mean, I could say I feel like he's probably in a faction that's against the war, but
Well, he's in multiple, he says, and
well,
there's
yeah,
many
but I mean,
factions, and he's in several of them apparently. So
well,
there's all sorts of stuff going on.
I feel like he's in multiple factions. I don't think he believes in each faction. I think he's more of
Mm,
like
trying to
watching
gather
from the
information.
sidelines. Yeah.
What do you think, Darkness?
Yeah, that does make sense.
You're not really sure about all that.
I think I think I think he really does care about the king though. So
He definitely seems to care about Siri. Yeah, I don't know about how much. He does say it puts her and the God King in danger, but I don't think we've gotten much of his opinion on Susabran.
yeah.
He
Okay,
apparently has some semblance of like uh liking him.
I may be reaching here, but I do have a feeling that he understands what perspective the God King would have, you know, being the God
Mm-hmm.
King
Mm-hmm.
right now. So I feel like there is gonna be like like I want you guys to be okay, like both of them,
Mm-hmm. Also,
which is
a
gonna be
question I just thought of on the spot here that I hadn't thought of before is, do you think Bluefinger's knows? Well, I guess we should get into that after, but I was
Mm-hmm.
gonna say, do you
Mm-hmm.
think Bluefinger knows about the whole
I have so much to say.
We might as well just say that. Do you think Bluefingers knows about the whole the God King's whole
His lack of
situation?
tongue, his
Yeah.
lack of tongue, which by the way, I called that he could not speak. He has no ability to.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't exactly call it precisely, but I knew that it wasn't that he chose not to. I knew he just couldn't. But uh, that is insane.
Yeah.
And I feel like before he lost his tongue, he may have said something that they didn't like.
Hmm.
But he
probably
seems
as a child
very
too.
uneducated in general. He seems very childlike, a lot like a specific sword.
You know, it would make sense for it to have happened as a child though. So.
Well, I mean, he's still a child, so
I mean,
Uh,
he's in his 20. He's at least in his
he's a
20s.
yeah.
child.
Actually, I think
That
he's
man
supposed to
in
be
his head is a
decades old.
child.
I think he looks
Well,
20, but she said I think Siri says he's like decades old. Multiple
I feel like
decades.
he doesn't feel decades old
I
No,
mean,
he
mentally.
he may
doesn't.
not feel. um.
You guys keep talking. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Okay. Uh,
Good.
I don't know. I just as soon as I, you know, what, continue until after that part, and then we'll talk about it.
Yeah. Well, I had one more question. Is what do you think is in the history books that would give Siri clues? Like, why does he say specifically that she should look in her histories? What
I
do you
feel
think's
like
in
he was
there?
pointing out like he wanted her to see what happens to like the quote unquote vessel after every, you know.
Well, I don't. Well, he says her histories specifically, not Halandran histories. I think he means like Idris histories and maybe histories from before they separated, potentially.
So maybe it's like the incident with the mother.
Her mother, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't know anything about her mom at the
So
moment.
it's probably that.
Hmm.
It's because I don't know the views of the other kingdom yet. Even though we started off there, it's just like we know the general like religion and their views on the other kingdom, but we don't know like how their kingdom works. Uh,
Yeah, we know that they don't like they because of their religion, they try and keep everything very colorless
yeah,
because color is just for God, basically. And we know that they have like all the rich families. One of your children has to go and be a monk, and basically the monks like go around basically just like helping elderly people, helping in the fields,
yeah.
things of that nature
But
is, you know.
I'm talking more about like how does the king choose their like bride there
Yeah,
in a
we don't
way?
know how they choose
How
yeah,
the
who they
royal line
marry.
continues there? It's like that's what I'm trying to find out because I sound like I'm a detective in this, bro. But I'm trying to see if there's any like sort of hint because there's definitely some background information on like family like issues there.
Yeah. Yeah, we have kind of just yeah, very basic knowledge of Idris. We mostly just get a lot of their beliefs through Ciri and Vivenna, but we don't really see much from them in
Yeah,
general.
I wish I wish they would get perspective of like that third sister.
Afafin?
Yeah,
Yeah, she just kind of does. I mean, from what we've seen, she's kind of just like does her own thing. She happily kind
well,
of
we haven't
helps
seen
people
her in
out.
like half a year.
I don't think it's been that long. I think it's been like a month, or well, no, because they were traveling for a couple weeks. I think it's probably been about 2 to 3 months.
Quarter of a year. No.
Because I think we've had in the chapters we've done so far 2 time skips of about a week or two.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
so it's been I think minimum 2 months, maximum 3 months.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of trying to wait for Mythic to come back before I move on.
I'm generally interested in like how I can't even talk about it because we're not there yet.
Yeah.
But like it, if we think about it, the creation of like a lifeless also can correlate to the creation of like how the child is gonna be born.
Yeah. We'll have to get there in a little bit. I think that's next chapter. It's
Yeah.
mythic. I mean, mythic knows what happens.
Uh,
I can do some of the summary because I kind of want to summarize kind of pretty much the rest of the chapter
yeah.
before.
I have returned.
Oh, there we go. Perfect timing. All right.
Sorry.
All right. I'm gonna start summarizing the rest of this chapter then, and then we'll go really into
Okay.
more about the God King. So yeah, so anyways, after her interaction with Bluefinger, Ciri enters the bedchambers, drops her dress, and gets onto the bed and after her shift. She does her bouncing and moaning, and apparently varying the rhythm and getting creative, because she's been doing this for a week.
She's like,
Before
ooh.
before settling down in the bed, and she just contemplates her discussion with Bluefingers when she suddenly feels a presence looming over her, causing her to scream in surprise. And it's the God King looming over her, and he kind of jumps backwards, startled. And after a moment, she calms down and softly states that he just startled her and it's okay. He then slowly and uncertainly moves back to the bed and sits on the edge of it and lifts her shirt, or lifts his shirt, sorry,
Oh,
causing Siri to panic, thinking that he's gonna go for it. Before revealing he had hidden a book under his shirt, which he lays on the bed. And he points to the book, and Siri wonders if he wants her to read it to him, although it's a storybook for children. Siri then wants the God King to explain what he wants because he's kind of just like pointing at it, and she's like, just explain. And he like opens his mouth and reveals he has no tongue. There's just a scar there, showing that it had been like cut out. Siri quickly deduces, yeah, it's because someone with a tongue can't give awakener commands, is her theory. Um, and the God King looks away, ashamed, and moves to get up, but Siri touches his arm and tells him she isn't disgusted by him, which I think she pulls away her hand quickly as well, because. But anyway, so he slowly sits back down and points again to the book, and she figures out that he can't read because he's pointing at the first word and like the first letter specifically, and she's just like, oh, he's just a figurehead or a puppet that is paraded around but unable to communicate at all. And so she begins to teach him how to read. And she thinks that the priests were right to be worried about her. So, yeah, we kind of went into it a little bit, but what do you think about the revelations that Susebron cannot speak or even read? He has literally pretty much no ways to communicate.
so for me, as soon as I saw all of this, instantly my favorite character.
Yeah, so Susebron is the
Susabron?
other favorite character that I
Yeah.
was talking about earlier. Nightblood and Susebron are my two favorites, and I've been like
Yep. Me
struggling
too.
so much not to say anything. Where you're like, oh, he's not the real God King, and like, oh, this and that, and I'm like, he's such
Mm-hmm.
a good guy.
Yeah. So
So,
go ahead,
okay.
Darkness. Oh,
I
go
was
ahead,
gonna
Darkness.
say, so when I did decide, this is the one. I felt like I wanted to get him out of there. Like, like I need a safety bubble around
I need
him.
to
Like,
protect
why is
him.
he going through all this? Yeah. Oh no. Yeah, no. If something happens to him, I'm gonna cry.
Okay,
um,
so
yeah,
my thought, the moment, because you wrapped up the chapter, right?
yeah,
So I can go through the whole chapter. Okay,
yeah,
cool.
the whole chapter.
So when at the end when she says, "I'll teach you it all if you wish," I cannot, absolutely cannot wait till she decides to actually like show her true colors, walk out there and be like, "Hey, I don't care what y'all think. I'm above you. I'm better than you all, and you will now have to listen to me because I feel like she's now going to start to take the puppet strings on Susabran and help
Yeah.
him to not only become himself of who he actually is, but also to like show the world that he's first not absolutely evil, and second that he's being manipulated by this country that they think is evil because every country has that
Hmm.
possibility. and that they're gonna start to like actually like create a revolution from the inside, from the highest point in the city.
You do remember that I did say that they were gonna
Yes, you
start.
did.
I'm like shaking
Yep.
right now.
Yep. I know. Oh my god, I'm so happy to see that. God, it's
I,
Suzerain
I,
is so awesome.
I
Still
want
not
to
my
see.
favorite character, but he's awesome.
He's great. I want to see him. I want to see him stand up for himself
Yeah.
But see,
so
how's he? I
bad.
wonder how he's gonna do that, though, right? What
He's
I
gonna have
saw
to eventually.
before, yeah, but what I saw before, right, was that he. I mean, it might have been a manipulation to the whole council, but like he did lift himself up and all of that.
No, that was
So
the
like,
priest,
Well, no,
remember?
that was the
He,
oh, was it the
priest. That was
priest
there
that did
was a
Thor.
that? Okay.
priest
Yeah.
beside his throne that he sat on that
Ah,
that awakened the rope that lifted him to his throne.
Can
gotcha.
Vipers
Okay.
talk? Mm.
I don't
Not
know
that we know of.
from the from the way we meet this other lifeless. It pretty close, I'm sure. They could do something
Um,
I just want to know if they can talk, because if they can, he probably can use that to talk eventually.
as far as we
eventually.
have
Yeah,
seen, they cannot. As far as we've seen so far.
Oh, that sucks.
But yeah, I'm very curious. Yeah. Also, the fact that he specifically hid a book and brought it to her, like, what is that kind of? What do you guys think about that? Like, he obviously like hid that under his shirt so that probably people wouldn't see.
Yeah, so
like,
he's definitely being controlled like hell is security, you know?
and he doesn't want to be.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like it
I feel
shows
like
part
he
of his
wants to
personality.
learn,
Yeah, like he obviously wants to learn to read.
Wait, that low-key makes sense. The
right?
fact that no, the fact that he didn't even try to do anything with
And
like
he was confused at why she was doing the things she was doing in the bed, and
yeah,
like he looked at her with like such like an innocent puppy dog little
yeah.
Mhm.
stare. Like
I mean,
But
at
it
this,
makes
they
sense,
were basically asking her to rape him
yeah,
because he has. I don't
right?
think he has any idea what
but
they
He
were
has
also
supposed to
no
be
clue what
doing.
he's supposed to do.
Asiri was kind of right about the fact that well, I don't know if it was Siri. I'm pretty sure it was us. But one of us, I think one of us was like, is this a test or whatever, right?
Hmm.
The
I
fact
mean,
that he
yeah,
wasn't doing
but
anything.
she
So
said it too.
I figured that it wasn't a test in the way that, well, either of us thought, you know. It was more of like a, is she willing to like bend the rules sort of thing before he can actually act upon what he
Yeah,
wants.
I think he
Because
was trying to
if
figure
she,
out what type of person she
yeah,
was.
Yeah, whether she was a puppet as well. Yeah,
yeah, that's
I mean,
that's
just I don't know. The way he acts is so. It reminds me so much of Nightblood, where it's like very childlike in a slightly different way. Where Nightblood is like the uh, outward aggressive child that just wants to get away with things and pouts about all the small things. He's like very naive, childlike, where he doesn't know much about the world and
yeah.
he's trying to learn about the world, and that's pretty cool to see. Hence why I started to think that Nightblood might be the actual like god name.
Hmm. Yeah, no, Susebron is definitely one of my favorites, and I've been waiting for this chapter. I was so excited for you guys to read that because yeah, as I said, Nightblood and Susebron, 100% my favorites.
The man had no tongue.
Yeah. So yeah, unfortunately that's it with Susebron's series this episode, sadly.
Unfortunately.
But we get to go into Vasher and Nightblood next, which is always fun.
Mm-hmm.
Chapter 21. So Vasher's actually standing on top of the God King's palace, and based on the fact that things are generally supposed to be happening around the same time, I'm assuming he's doing this while Ciri is teaching Susebron to read. He's currently on top of the palace, and he's admiring the sunset, which Nightblood comments on it, saying he can feel Vasher seeing the sunset, even though he can't see it himself. And Vasher describes Nightblood's biochroma as powerful and twisted. Um, and he can sense people and life which he was created to protect. Vasher also briefly mentions how he can sense the grass growing down below because of how strong his life sense is. So what do you think about this specific information about Nightblood? That he has powerful and twisted biochroma, and also that he was created to protect people and life.
Wait, word? I don't remember that part of it, but
Yeah, it
that
was
he
right at
was
the start.
created to protect.
Yep. Chapter where is it?
Oh,
Chapter
it was
21.
strange how easily and quickly protection.
Where is it?
Huh.
Nightblood had, both were things Nightblood, sorry, but with its powerful twisted biochroma, it could sense life and people. Both were things Nightblood had been created to protect. It was strange how easily and quickly protection could cause destruction. Sometimes Vasher wondered if the two
Ah,
weren't
yeah,
really the same
I do
thing.
remember that.
I like how it specifically says it was created.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so it says he was specifically created to protect.
Huh.
Yeah, okay, I remember that, but I don't know. For some reason, in my mind, I was thinking the next line where it says "protect the flower, destroy the pests, protect the building, destroy the plants." That kind of idea. I was for some reason thinking of the destroy aspect of it.
Yeah, no, so he's supposed to be protecting things. He was created to protect things, but yeah, Basher's like, how easy is it to destroy things just to protect others?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Darkness, do you have any thoughts about that?
Besides the fact that they seem to have really strong ties to each other, I don't know if I feel like Vasher definitely created it,
You
and
think
that's
Basher
where
created Nightblood?
yeah, and that's where all the the breaths that he used to have went.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm interested in is the fact that it's considered twisted.
Yeah, that's
So
yeah, I wanted to highlight that.
I want to figure out what can twist biochroma in that way
Hmm.
because we haven't seen anything that hints off like um doing this affects the magic of this world, you know.
Yeah, it sounds like it's like it's been altered in some way. Like
Mm.
it's like nothing else has been called twisting biochroma. Even like creating lifeless is not. They've never like worded it that way.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Like even the lifeless weren't like considered twisted
Hmm.
by Helendron's standards. I mean,
Yeah. Um, but yeah, so that's a little bit there about Nightblood. And then Vasher awakens his pants and his shirt, like some tassels on them, which apparently uses 1,800 breaths. So I calculated it because it says he goes from the fifth heightening to just barely the second. So that's 1,800 breaths that apparently that uses, just awakening his shirt and pants. Which I think it sounds like the majority was used on the shirt, he said, because he said it used a lot more than he was happy about. And the strength in his
Mm-hmm.
pants allows him to be able to jump down these 10-foot tall blocks of the pyramidal structure. And as Vasher gets to the ground, Nightblood mentions that Vasher is bad at sneaking, and Vasher responds that Nightblood just wants to prove his strength. It's also mentioned that Nightblood doesn't trust priests. So I wanted to ask, why do you think Nightblood doesn't trust priests? And do you think it's something he picked up from Vasher, or is it his own opinion?
God, I mean, it would make sense.
I'm not even entirely sure how to take that. Oh my god, my brain just goes everywhere.
Yeah, we get a lot of information on characters these chapters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
100%.
I I think it's just personal opinion because Vasher didn't speak up on it that much, right?
I mean,
He
Like there
doesn't
was,
comment on it, but or I don't know if
so
it was
here's
actually something he said. I think it might have just been. Where is it? Was it
mm-hmm.
just a like? Is it an actual like comment? Oh, it is an actual comment because honestly, I don't trust priests. And Vasher response is he isn't a priest. That's his only response to that
yeah,
because it's a guard or something that they're looking
uh-huh.
at.
I mean, it still goes on the same kind of in the same aspect as both what me and Darkness over here are talking about,
Hmm.
but that I think it was like in my opinion, it sounds a lot like Vasher might have been Nightblood when he was a god kind of idea, and then like somehow, even though it's stated that they can't give breath or use
They can't
awakened or
awaken.
powers,
Yeah.
um, he gave Nightblood like all of his like because that's what the gods are supposed to do. They're
Hmm.
supposed to give away all of theirs, and then became instead a drab and um my thought is maybe when he became a drab, like the priests or whoever were supposed to like kill him off, kind of idea because he gave all of his breath, and then um they Nightblood having all of it uh somehow saved him,
Mm. So,
and
because
then
we get the impression previously that like by giving away all your breasts, you just instantly die. But you're saying they don't
given the
die; they become
impression. Yeah,
drab, and then
yeah,
they
we're
they
given the
actually
impression,
secretly kill them.
or something to that extent. Yeah,
Mm.
like or the thought that comes across my head is that um maybe Nightblood he gave all of his breath to the sword, and then it became Nightblood or whatever. Um, and then he stayed as a drab, but like he doesn't remember anything. Kind of like when they become awakened. No, not awakened.
Returned.
Returned. Yeah, when they become returned, they have no memory of their past.
Mm-hmm.
But the same way backwards. Like now he gave all of his breath away. He no longer has memory of who he was in either life, and then um, it's just assumed that that's their death. Like because
Mm-hmm.
you're not the same person anymore,
I
and maybe
see.
that's why he chooses different names, like Tax and Vasher. Um, just a thought that been rolling around in my head now.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking as well, but I was thinking, what if it's entirely backwards? And he like um I agree that it's a possibility that he could have not died when he gave away his breath, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what if instead of forgetting, he remembered?
Hmm.
Oh, you think by giving away his return breath, he remembered his past life?
Yeah,
Hmm.
it would make sense. I mean,
Would
it would make sense of the distrust against the priest
Mm.
because if he gave his breath into Nightblood, then that distrust is obviously gonna like reflect onto that. Um, yeah, I feel like he does remember. If he were to be like one of the gods, he would have definitely remembered.
Mm-hmm.
possible. But again, anything's possible.
There's a lot of possibilities still.
The only person here who knows all of the truth is Midnight. So
As I said, I don't remember every detail of the book though. I remember the main plot points.
Fake man.
Uh, this is one
how
of the
could
few
you
books I
not
remember
remember
references.
things about your favorite character? Like,
I mean I remember most of the stuff that happens with Susebra and Nightblood. I'll be honest.
yeah.
But anyways, so yeah, we get told next that Vasher met with an informant, which I don't know. I think it might be a different one than the guy he met previously. I'm not sure because all this information isn't necessarily, I don't think, in that previous conversation with that other priest, but or maybe it was and we just didn't get all of it. But he's been told to stay away from Blushweaver and Stillmark, who are very influential gods, but also stay away from lesser gods such as Gift Beacon and Peace Yearning. Um, Vasher is instead going to Mercy Star's palace, who I guess is kind of in the middle, somewhat influential, but not like super influential. Briefly mentioned that her colors are yellow and gold. And after hiding Nightblood in his cloak, he kind of like hunches over and pretends to be a bit crazy and approaches the two men guarding the palace, telling he's just kind of like here to see the god. And Nightblood makes a remark that Vasher is cleverer than that. But the guards are very nice to Vasher. They're like, "Oh, we'll get you to like a shelter or something," and makes Vasher feel a bit guilty. And he attacks them, knocking them unconscious. And Nightblood, sounding hurt, mentions that he's better than a shirt and could have killed the guards. And then when Vasher says that corpses cause problems, he quickly says, "Oh, I can knock people out too." um,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm curious, do you think Vasher actually didn't want corpses around, or was it more because the guards were kind to him that he didn't kill them?
It's because the guards were kind.
Nah, I definitely think he doesn't want corpses. I think he's trying not to alert anything, but he seems very smart.
Yeah, like the little
He's
the
very smart.
more
He's very smart not to listen to Nightblood because Nightblood's going to kill everybody
Nightblood's
if he
like
wanted to.
Nightblood wants to be useful. He's like, I'm better than a shirt.
Yeah, and then he says, "I could knock people out." Uh huh. Because
Yeah,
you're so known for so far knocking people out.
as long as he stays sheathed, he's fine.
Uh,
Um,
Uh,
Anyways, I mean,
Yeah,
Basher, I
uh-huh.
think I don't.
Sure.
I mean, I think he hits one of them in the stomach with Nightblood's sheath, doesn't he? Or is that a different
Mm,
interaction?
I don't know.
Yeah,
Uh,
suddenly their stomach is gone.
I mean, I
anyways,
do remember him throwing him.
that's in the next interaction, yeah. So, but yeah, so then Basher enters the palace. It's briefly mentioned how the climate of Tetelier allows for doorways to just have colored sheets instead of doors. So they're kind of just like very open, air palaces, apparently. I know you guys like the mentions of the inside of the palaces, so I wanted to note that.
Yes.
He then runs into four servants in the servants' hallway on the periphery of the palace, and he has his belt grab one of them, his like rope belt, and then he throws Nightblood at the other three. Two of them run away, but one stops to grab Nightblood, undoing the snap on the hilt and starting to pull out the sword. And I wanted to specifically read this word for word. A dark, fluid-like smoke begins to stream out. Some dripped to the ground, other tendrils of it snaked out and wrapped around the man's arm, drawing the color from his skin. And then Vasher kicks the man, knocking him down so he'll drop Nightblood before ramming his head into the wall. He then closes Nightblood's sheath. And Nightblood is annoyed that Vasher didn't let him kill the one servant and also mentions that it isn't right that the two ran from him. And Vasher states that Nightblood cannot tempt the hearts of men who are pure. There's a lot there I want to ask about. So, this is the first time we've seen Nightblood opened.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think this smoke is? What do you think about this dark fluid-like smoke?
Well, that's the twisted part. So
Do you think it's like a physical representation of the twisted biochroma?
probably, it seems
He's an evil weapon.
it's like a
Evil.
it's
It's
like
here to protect.
here's my theory. So it's sucking out the breath, right?
Hmm.
This is my theory. It's
Is
sucking out
it?
the breath, but it can't suck out like that breath from people that are like like their own original breath. Like they have one, you know,
Hmm. So you
Mm,
and
think
that's
men
what
who
they
are
mean
pure
by
of heart are
pure.
ones that have like their own breath only?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. That's my thought process there. I I'm still trying to trying to see where that twisted biocoma comes from, but
Yeah.
you know,
Well, I mean the biochroma also is your aura, and we do know that his aura doesn't necessarily work the same as everyone else's. So most people's makes things like more saturated and brighter. His makes things
his makes it darker.
darken in
Mhm.
color when he's his aura. So that probably is also related to the twisted nature of that,
Possibly.
hmm
or at least is some sort of representation of it. What do
Maybe he's just a twisted sister.
what do you think, Method? What do you think about the smoke?
I mean, I kind of think darkness kind of hit the nail on the head for what I think too, but
All right.
that it's a manifestation of his darker aura.
it's
And
like
then do you agree about the not tempting the hearts of men who are pure, or did you have any other
Oh, I don't think it's
ideas?
because of just the single breath thing. I think it's literally just that that uh, people who are more pure of heart wouldn't pick him up and want to use him.
Hmm.
Would be tempted by him.
It also kind of explains the whole Nightblood constantly getting stolen by people, as he apparently like tempts
Mm-hmm.
people that are not pure of heart.
Hence why, and it also explains why Vasher didn't even
He doesn't
care
worry about
to
it. He's
chase
like,
that
I'll
man.
find
Yeah,
him. They'll be dead. It's fine.
it
Um,
does make me wonder though if Denth and them know about that, or if they just think it's a powerful sword.
well, they do know that it causes those weird blackened
Yes,
wounds.
but I'm saying the part of like tempting others to come and do all of that.
Yeah, and I mean, if they were around him, I mean, what does that potentially
Why
say
were
about
they not
them?
tempted? Why
Hmm.
were they not tempted? Yeah, why it makes me wonder if they know about it. It also
I
makes
wonder
me
if
wonder. It also makes me wonder if the guy that they're praising to be so good and high and mighty might have actually not been so high and mighty.
Arsteel,
Yeah,
what were
I
you going to
also
say, Darkness?
wonder how Nightblood would fare against Lifeless,
Hmm. Because we don't know if they can even be pure of heart, or if they're even really considered men.
or if they can feel the need, to like grab the sword either way,
Hmm.
or if they can get like that black stuff.
Yeah, if the black stuff would even if the black smoke would even affect them.
At that
Um,
point, I wouldn't it just be like a regular sword with like telepathic ability?
um,
Uh,
but yeah, so then we get Vasher pulls out a dead squirrel out of his belt pouch,
Mhm.
which he then awakens into a lifeless. So here's where we learn that making a lifeless only takes one breath. However, you can never get that breath back. It's a permanent awakening. He commands the squirrel to run around and bite people that aren't him. And Vasher then finds a hidden trap door and notes that the palaces are only supposed to be one level, and that the priests can be good about hiding things even from the gods. Uh, so, do you have any notes about
yes.
the lifeless,
No.
first of all?
Go ahead. Go
Okay.
ahead,
So
Darden.
I was like, I was thinking if it's. You remember how they said? I can't remember if it's like it said. There's only like four people that can have that can. Is it create
No,
lifeless or is
they
it like
they own
command?
the lifeless commands. There's only four gods
Yeah.
Yeah.
that have
So
access to the command words,
Lifeless
basically.
commands for that army, though. I thought.
Yeah, they have a huge army of lifeless, and
Mhm.
four of the gods of the 25 know the commands. Like we learn later in the next chapter about how like there's command words for lifeless, so that because anyone can technically use lifeless.
yeah.
Mhm.
So I was thinking back then I was thinking, oh, there's only a certain amount of people that can use it or create it, right?
Hmm.
Mhm.
So later on in the chapters we find out from Jules that they can be bought, but not everyone can create them. And I'm just thinking Basher literally just created a lifeless like it was nothing, right?
But
I don't know if it specifically said that
yeah,
not anyone can make them. I think she just says specifically that she didn't make Claude.
yeah, because she has no breath.
Yeah, because she's a drab.
Yeah, she can't give
She
something she
bought
doesn't
him.
have.
She didn't make him, but I don't think it said that only certain people can make
But
them.
when we get to that, I have many notes for that. So
I wouldn't wouldn't Vivanna just be able to
yes,
I think
yes, I have
Vivenna
that in my
can, yes,
notes.
make a whole lot of lifeless because she has a lot of breath.
yeah,
She could just make herself an army if she wants to get rid
that's
of
what I
them.
was
Well,
thinking.
that's what I was thinking too.
Yeah,
Because
anyways.
remember how she said she didn't want she wanted to give one breath back up to a person.
Yeah, well.
That's a lot of bodies.
Yeah, an army.
um,
Wait, what if that comes into play to
Mm-hmm.
the to the heist? The heist.
sounds like you're getting
The
into
Nice.
Mythic's theories here.
Yep.
Because how many does she have? She does third heightening, right?
you go Mythic, you go.
So she's got 600 breaths, I believe, around that
Mhm.
number. Um,
So 600 lifeless. I mean, do we know how big the army
well,
is?
599
Well,
because she wants
yeah,
to keep her
because
one.
she's gonna yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about. She can make 600 lifeless and become a drab.
She would never.
I know she won't, but she could.
I mean, we don't know if she's exactly 600. He could have been working his way up towards four, fourth heightening.
Oh yeah, true. Yeah, true.
We just know she's of the third. We don't know how close she
Hmm.
is to fourth heightening.
What's the fourth lightning?
It gets like exponentially bigger, so I think it's like
Yeah,
a
but
thousand
what's
or something.
is 1,000? Okay,
Uh,
so somewhere
yeah, it's a
between six and
thousand.
1,000.
Yeah,
I mean, we'll find out later when she becomes an awakener.
yeah. So we'll get back into more of that when we go into the next chapter. But
Mythic?
so besides from the well, I think Mythic his whole theory he said was in regards to the
Mhm.
other section, right?
Oh, I have notes upon notes on the next
Yeah,
chapter.
that's what I was saying. I was saying I don't know if you want to get into all that just yet.
No, we'll get to that. We'll get to it. We'll
Yeah.
get to it.
But before we get into all that, though, do you have any thoughts about the priest hiding thing from the gods and this trap door? What do you think he's gonna
Well,
find
it's
out of the palace?
oh.
Go ahead, Darkness, because I have my own theories on that.
So I don't know what to expect from Under the Palace, but it does solidify the theory that um how do I say it? That the mistrust from the priests that they
Hmm.
had. It could go into the theory that we have about Vasher, or well, that I have about Vasher. I don't remember if Mythic shares the same, but
Go ahead.
yeah.
What are you talking about with Vasher?
Where yeah, yeah, we share similarities, except that I think that he remembers Aida.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Um,
about all that him
so
potentially being a god
yeah,
thing.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
my thought is that when he's going down there for something, and it seemed almost as if like he was he was obviously looking for something. He came here for a specific reason.
Well, we were told he got
Um,
information from someone, so he obviously has some
yeah.
sort of idea of what's down there. We just aren't told.
hmm but I think it's going to be something to the extent of like something to do with the wow what returned. And then like like either I have a couple theories on it, but either they're holding like returned down there, or people that they're going to turn into return down there, or they're holding something else, like a lot of breath. Somebody is like maybe somebody's being given a lot of breath, and then they're just like kind of holding it and hoarding it down there.
Hmm.
It's a storage area.
Something to that extent. I mean, the kind of the same idea as the God King is a puppet. Like they have another person down there that is to hold something for them, or like maybe they figured out how to do what I was talking about with Nightblood, where they gave it to an item or something,
Hmm.
and it's holding all of the breath. I mean, we're not told what Nightblood's heightening is, right?
I don't believe so. No, I don't think we're told.
Okay.
He obviously has a visible aura, so he's got to
Yeah.
be up there. I think at least third or more, because I think Vivenna has a small aura, so I think he's got to be
Mhm.
third or higher.
Yeah.
But I don't
So
remember if
maybe.
they've said his actual. We know Vasher's of the fifth currently. Yeah, we don't.
hmm
We don't. And he had a pretty visible aura, so I'm assuming Nightwood would be similar-ish, maybe. Like probably third up, possibly close to around fifth, maybe at the very least. Which fifth is the returned heightening number.
Yep. Yep. Supposedly. I
Well, they say all of the returned are of the fifth
know.
heightening,
I
so
know.
yeah. All right. Any other thoughts on that before we move on?
Nope. I think that's about all I got.
I'm I'm good.
All right. So we'll move on to chapter 22. First, with Lightsong's point of view. So
hmm
he is with Weatherlove, god of storms, Life Blesser, the god of healing, and Truth Call, the god of nature. And they're playing Tarachin, which Tarachin is apparently a game played by the wealthy, where you throw a variety of wooden spheres with lead centers into different sections of a courtyard for various different types of points. And we don't really get much more explanation than that because apparently
Except for the
Lightsong.
fact that Light Song is an amazing
Yeah,
at
we're gonna
this
get
for
back to
some
that.
reason.
Yeah, apparently, like, so I never learned the rules of the game, and so he doesn't really go into more detail than that. But I think we learned that there's like reversal balls and like all sorts of things. There's like different colored balls that mean different things. Um, and
Never
so
learned the rules of the game, yet somehow was winning the game.
yeah, which Lightsong makes a comment on that. But Weatherlove asks Lightsong
Yeah.
to bless his throw, which Lightsong's like, why would I do that? We're competing against each other. Why would I bless your throw? Which Weatherlove I think kind of chuckles at. And after Lightsong takes his turn, he randomly picks a ball just based on the fact that the color matches his orange drink. Gets like 400 and something points. And then he
hmm
throws a second time because he got a crown pairing. And gets even more. He gets like 500 and something points the second time. And then Lightsong thinks that there's an inherent flaw in the game if the person who understands the game the least does the best at it. Because
Yeah.
apparently, like, it's supposed to be like this hugely strategic and like all sorts of game. It's like a power of like strength and strategy. Um, yeah. All right. Do
Well,
you
I
guys
mean,
just have any
it makes
comments
sense
about?
with the reversible.
Do you guys have any thoughts about Tarachin and Lightsong's lack of knowledge on the game?
I think
I,
he's just a savant, you know?
I don't know. I would have been the same situation.
Just randomly chucking the balls.
Yeah.
Me, I would have been the other person trying to do strategic, but But that's why me and Lightsong are perfect for each other. We're complete opposites.
Yeah, apparently they play
Daddy,
like
come get me.
weekly too. They like constantly play this.
Yeah, and he's still better than them.
Yeah, I think Lightsong notes that like he thinks they only invite him so that they can finally beat him one day.
And then he just leaves. That's my
Yeah.
favorite part about this.
Yeah,
When
he'll
he
leave
just
in the middle of the game.
walks away. He's just like, but you're winning. I'm leaving.
Yeah. Well, we find,
Okay.
well, I think
like,
part of the reason why he leaves is we get into learning that Truthcall has a vote on issues of trade with other kingdoms. He does not have lifeless commands. And their conversations turn to talking about Ciri. They seem to think that the Idrians betrayed the treaty because they sent the wrong daughter, and that Ciri can be manipulated. Life Blesser also makes a very they really go on about how Life Blesser is just kind of blunt and obtuse. And they're like he makes this really blunt comment about attacking Idris, and Truthcall says he wants to apply pressure to get more access to the passes through the mountains. And they all kind of mention that they've got plan. I think Life Blesser also is like I've got plans and secrets. I know things. But yeah, what do you think about these three gods? These three guys.
They seem
Um,
like they seem like idiots, but
I was gonna say they
idiots
seem like
with some
assholes.
yeah, idiots with some sort of power.
Well, it seems like Life Blesser's the biggest idiot. Even the other two gods were like, Life Blesser, please.
Hmm. I'm a little biased, so
A little.
I keep wanting to call Truth Caller too. I feel like it ending Truth Call is too short for compared to the other names. They all seem to have like ERs at the end, and it bothers me that his name is just Truth Call.
Because he's not a real god. I don't know.
He's the god
Light
of
Songer.
nature.
Exactly, not a real god.
Did you see Darkness?
I said Light Songer.
I guess Light Song also doesn't have an ER at the end.
Okay, I take it back. He has to be a real god because Lightsong has no ER. Actually, no, never mind. No, I don't. Lightsong's not a god. He says it himself.
Mythic, make up your mind.
I need Lightsong here to tell me what to think. All right.
Well, we didn't get Light Song. Yeah, deciding to leave the other gods in the middle of the game. He's like, yeah, I'm done. And they're like, we'll have to play again next week if you leave now. And he's, I think he says like, stop threatening me, or like, why do you like
I mean,
threaten
this
me
man
with
needs
these
to just
things?
But why?
purposefully lose. Like, just lose so that they stop
Well, I
inviting you
think
to
he
things.
says he'd actually have to put thought into losing, because he'd
Yeah.
actually have to like learn how to play if he wanted to like purposely throw. Because obviously him just not knowing anything has worked out well for him. He should just choose the color that he responds to the least. He's like, I really want this orange ball, but so I'll go like green instead.
Yeah,
That's,
right. And then it'll be like 1,000 points or something.
yeah, I know. It'll somehow work out even better.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, anyways, he walks away and thinks that these gods are amateurs in politics compared to gods like Blushweaver. So maybe in regards to the person Vasher spoke to previously, he would call them the lesser gods, not influential like Blushweaver if they're amateurs. But anyways, he says they still seem to be dangerous though, even if they're amateurs. Lightsong also mentions that he trusts Blushweaver more than any other god or goddess, but worries about how aggressive she is. He wonders if she came to him to balance herself out, and Lightsong wonders if doing nothing would be more work than doing something, and ends up deciding to go see Blushweaver. Do you think Lightsong should trust Blushweaver? Do you think he's being naive in trusting her, or do we just not know her well enough?
I mean,
Uh,
I want to hope that we just don't know her enough, but at the current moment, she's a cunt.
oh,
And I don't like her.
uh, yeah. She, I don't think you should trust things that seem too beautiful for their own good, you know? Seems like a little bit of a trap.
Yeah. Also, based on what we've seen of her previously, do we really think that she comes to him to balance herself out? Because it seemed previously like she comes to him for his lifeless commands.
Well, yeah.
Like I don't know about his reasoning here, based on what we've read so far.
Hmm. I mean, she even stated it outright to him.
Yeah.
Like, can't get much blunter than that.
All right. Well, we then switch to Vivenna's point of view, and
Yes, thankfully.
she is in a restaurant with Denth Tonkfa and a man called Fob. We learn that Fob is a landowner. He
Mhm.
clears land and then rents it to growers, and often relies on Lifeless to help clear the areas, which is loaned through the government. And apparently, his contract states that if Halandrin goes to war, all food grown on his land would become property of the returned gods. So apparently, they rent out their lifeless to do kind of like mundane things when they're not at war, which I guess
Huh.
makes sense. It sounds like they have a good deal going on here.
Oh,
Um, hmm?
yep.
Yeah. So Denth and Tonkfa want Fob to harvest early and sell to get ahead of his competitors and keep the return gods from having that food for wartime. They then have Avenna show off her color-changing hair to prove themselves to him. And they end with Fob saying he'll consider harvesting early, and then they leave and meet up with Parlin, Jules, and Claude. There's a brief discussion about Claude and Lifeless, mentioning how you have security phrases to give Lifeless commands, because anyone can use a Lifeless, not just the person who awakens them. And
Mhm.
Vivenna asks for the security phrase, and Dent says he'll ask Jules if she can have it. It also mentioned that Jules speaks to Claude, which Vivenna notes can't be healthy and makes Dent look troubled. Why do you think Jules speaks to Claude?
Go ahead, Darkness, because I got a whole spiel to do here.
Well, I mean, why not? It's like sometimes you just gotta talk. And if they can't talk, then they can't say anything you don't want to hear. You know,
Okay, so
especially if they're like a servant.
import that meme of the red lines to the board.
Oh yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
I think Claude is like either a very good friend of hers that died and she used to bring back, or it's somebody related in some way to her. Because later
Mm,
we find out that she was one of the people that was taken and became a drab. I'm thinking that they got money from government or whatever to,
hmm
for giving her breath. Claude then, for some reason, didn't agree with it or something and went to attack them or did something to that extent. They killed him. She then paid somebody with the money that they gave her to give away her life, or not her life, her breath, and now has Claude as a lifeless.
I don't
Oh
want to
my
put
god.
too many holes in your theory, but they do say previously they've had him for a few months in the first chapter.
doesn't doesn't change the fact that he could have had this plan going on.
Or she just needs like therapy.
I mean, yeah, she definitely seems. I mean, when she came in originally, she to me it sounded a lot more like she was that person that I said, where she's very down to earth and kind of like narrowing them down. And even when she showed up, Dent and wow, I can't remember his name now.
Denth?
Tonk Fa,
Oh,
yeah,
Tonkfa.
Dent and Tonk Fa,
hmm
both all of a sudden weren't as jokey and like all that. They were much more serious, with very slight little jokes here and there, but like they were much more serious than they were before.
hmm
And like so, she definitely brings that attitude in there to kind of rein them
Hmm.
in some way. So just
I mean, he definitely could be someone that she knew. I don't think he would have been someone who like she knew maybe back, or at least not died back when she was a kid, since I don't think his body would be good enough to awaken if he
well, I
was
don't
dead
know.
for
Yeah,
like
I'm
how
saying
many
I'm not
years.
saying
But
like yeah, I'm not saying it was like oh he immediately they took her breath and he immediately went in to attack
oh, okay,
them.
that's what I thought you were
Like
saying.
I'm saying like he yeah no like he was stewing on the idea because you don't just go attack an entire government.
It's true.
You got to think about it. You got to plot, and maybe the plot took years and
hmm
years, and like she finally just like, all right, I got this. I can go in here. I figured it out, and maybe it was a really good plan, and then just one hiccup happened. Somebody just happened to kill him, and then he I mean, this is a wild theory, but
It's a good
hmm
theory, and it would make sense.
yeah, because she talks to it like or talks to him as if he's still alive and able to speak to her, which I'm really hoping kind of ties back into what you said about lifeless being able to speak. I'm really hoping that it's just something like has to be taught, kind of like the God King has to be taught how to read. Maybe it's something that has to kind of be taught to the lifeless, like they are given life again, so they maybe need to learn it all over again.
hmm Also, I want to send you guys. I just remembered
Uh-oh.
the picture, that whole picture from one of the pictures I sent
Oh,
previously,
oh,
which it
oh,
had
because
Claude
they're
in
in
it
it.
and
Yeah.
Jules, and that's why I couldn't send it to you previously. So this is the this is the whole picture of that previous one I sent you guys. They've got Tonkfa's new
Ah,
monkey.
yeah. Oh, yeah. The fact that he parrot was so boring.
Well, it wasn't
Monkeys are
boring. They
so
say
much
he's
better.
bad with pets. I think
Yeah, but
he's they're
he stated the parrot was
well, yeah,
boring.
he said later, I think, to kind of console himself. He's
Yeah,
like, well, parrots are boring anyways. I think he probably accidentally killed it somehow. Like, he forgot to feed it or
yeah.
something.
It's possible. Did you just end the Discord thing?
Yeah, I didn't mean to have that going the whole time.
I mean, I was using it, but okay.
Oh, are you? I can redo it. Sorry.
I was only using it just to make sure that because like your stream has a delay slightly.
Oh yeah, sorry. I can keep that up. I just didn't realize it had still been going.
No worries.
Um,
So I'm guessing the one that's in the blue then in this picture is
I think the one in the blue is Jules. I think the one with the hood up is Vivenna because she
yeah.
like hides her hair.
Yeah, it makes much more sense.
Yeah, and then Claude is obviously Claude.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we all know who Claude is in that picture.
But yeah, that actually gets into yeah, we note that Tonkfa has a new pet, a monkey. When asked about the parrot, Dent says Tonkfa isn't good with pets.
Yeah.
So he's not good with the pets. Um, it's then mentioned that Vivenna and the mercenaries have been meeting with dozens of people over the last couple of weeks. Some were
Mm-hmm.
underground leaders and some were merchants. They next go to meet Grable, a thieving lord of the city. And Dent states they want him to make certain supply carts disappear on their way to the city. Uh, Grable wants to see Vivenna's hair before they discuss details, and he makes Vivenna not just show like with her hood up. He makes her show to the whole room because apparently everyone in the restaurant is his people. So she
Mm-hmm.
shows off her hair, and then Grable states
Oh,
that
I
he
love it.
thinks Vivenna is not a princess, but a random person from the royal bloodline. Which we get some information from Vivenna stating that the only potential heirs have the royal locks, and her children will
Mm-hmm.
not have them unless she is queen of Idris. And then Grable then says he wants to buy Vivenna, and Dent has them get up to leave. Before we go into the next part, I'm just curious if you guys had any comments about how the magical hair somehow knows who the current king or queen is, which heirs to like give the royal locks to.
Okay, so if that's true, does that mean then that all of their children, like, because it's just the way it got worded was like that means then okay, so the king or not the king, the mother was the rightful heir, or was it the king that was the
I
rightful
think the
heir? And
king,
then
because
you know,
I think it's the king is because he has color changing hair. So I
Uh
think
huh.
mhm.
he's the royal bloodline, not the mom. And so he had kids, and they all have the royal locks. But it sounds like I'm assuming, I guess, when they get married or something, he passes the throne to them, and before they have children, um, and they're named king or queen, because it sounds like I think it's Ridger, I believe is the name. He's supposed to become the next king. So only Ridger's children, if he becomes king, will have the royal locks. Vivenna's children won't. Fafin's children won't. Ciri's children
Huh.
won't.
Yeah, okay, that's what I was trying to understand. That it would it would be like so then the God King's not gonna have the royal locks.
No. What were you gonna say there, Darkness?
No, I was just like,
Hmm.
I was just like, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't think Haladrin cares so much about the royal locks. They just want to say that
What the
their
bloodline?
god king
The blood.
has the
Yeah.
bloodline. But yeah, I guess. And I mean, also, if they're planning on slaughtering all the rest of them, would the God King technically then be the official heir if none of the other royal
Of
family is
Idris?
left?
Yeah, possibly.
Uh, yeah, I just found that kind of note interesting that somehow their bloodline magically knows who. I don't know if they have like a specific ritual or like if there's something they do to specifically crown someone, or if it just somehow inherently knows. So
It's
yeah,
magic.
it's just magic.
I mean, it
So
is.
yeah. So yeah, so then Grable has his bodyguards attack. because they get up to try and leave. And Dent very quickly stabs one guy
Mhm.
through the neck, and then it's also noted that he's actually stabbed one of the other bodyguards somehow at the same, like, in stabbing this guy in the neck. And Grable mentions that apparently Dent appeared out of nowhere 10 years ago, gathered a team of the best, and that he's inhumanly fast. They then
Mhm.
quickly leave, and Dent says that Grable just wants to see him use his blade and apologizes for wasting Vivenna's time. Vivenna notes that it seems like Dent's control is cracking. Like, she's like, he has a lot more control than he lets on, and it seems like that's
Yep.
almost cracking at the moment. So, what do you think about Grable's comments on Dent?
I mean, not unfounded.
I think it's pretty cool that he he definitely has more to show.
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, we get told that Dent was, I think, apparently the best on their team, or him and Arsteel were comparatively the best on their team back in the day. But yeah,
Uh
like, I
huh.
feel like it gives. This is kind of when I think we get a lot more of the depth to Dent
Yeah,
here.
a lot
Wow.
Um,
more.
and like it kind of shows that like he's a lot more than just a mercenary. It seems like.
Uh huh.
He was a king. I don't know.
Oh my God. Another theory. No,
I mean, that's not really my theory. Like, I just it would be interesting.
yeah.
He seems to know a lot about that kind of lifestyle, the way he talks to Vivenna. So,
hmm What do you think by it means that Dent appeared out of nowhere 10 years ago too? Do you think that means he was just like a no one, or do you think he like came from far away, or?
I mean, honestly, I can mean pretty much any of that, but
I think they just didn't know where he came from.
mhm.
Not that he just like magically appeared.
This man magically appears in your bedroom.
Oh.
What?
What? I mean, he's fast enough; he could magically appear.
Inhumanly fast, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, so he could magically appear anywhere he wants. Does make me wonder if it's actually magic, though.
um, but yeah, so then as they're walking away from the restaurant, an Idrian man runs up to Vivenna and states that the Idrians and Tetelier have been saying that she has come to take the throne back. Jensen says they need to take the man somewhere else. He's like hand on his sword, or has his sword out already. I think Vivenna says. He's like, we're gonna search this guy and take him somewhere else. We're not doing this here because he notes that they're very close to the restaurant still, and I don't think
Mhm.
he wants Grable to see this. So they end up at a building in the poor section of town. And Vivenna waits outside with Parlin, Jules, Claude, and or yeah, I think Claude's at them with them, and the Idrian. Dent and Tonkfa check the building out. As they wait, Vivenna realizes that Jewel is a drab.
Because she
Um,
can't sense her life.
yeah, apparently if you have no breath, you don't really get noticed by this life sense that they have, just like lifeless.
It would be a good thing for like assassins.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Well, I think probably this is likely the reason they're always sending her out to follow people.
Hmm.
That's kind of what I assume here is
Would
that
explain why she hasn't gotten breath too. Yeah.
yeah, that might be why she hasn't bought any.
Hmm.
But yeah, so once the building is considered safe, Parlin is sent off to cancel their next appointment, as Savannah wants to hear what the Idrian, who we learned is named Thame, has to say. And we find out that Thame runs small jobs for bosses in the city, as people don't like to hire Idrians if they have other choices. Apparently, his
Hmm.
boss sold information about where Vivenna would be to some people, and Thame got to hear it for free. What do you think about the fact that it's getting around so much that Vivenna is here?
That was very concerning to me, considering that it's gonna reach the the higher ups eventually. Um,
Yep.
yeah, this whole like situation that's upcoming, where she talks about meeting them, it's like very worrisome in my opinion. Things
100%.
could go wrong so fast.
You have any thoughts, Mythic, about
I mean, I
everyone
agree.
talking about?
Yeah, I think people talking about this is a very troublesome thing.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, people are selling the information. Like it's getting
yeah,
around.
you can't let that happen. And I mean, I feel like somebody needs to stop that.
The thing is, though, they're also probably contributing to that because they're showing her off in order to get people to
Yes, but still,
like
somebody needs to
it's a
stop that.
risk. But yeah, so Vivenna then states that she wants to meet the other Idrians, and Thame says to ask for Rira, who is his boss, so that she can find him again. He then leaves, and Dent sends Jules to follow him. As I said, I think that's probably because she has no breasts, so people with biochroma they can't sense her. I feel like she's really good at sneaking around probably. Tonkfa then pouts about not being able to be the mean one, and Vivenna says he can be the mean one next time. And they kind of like he makes like a whole bunch of jokes like, can I threaten them? Can I chop off the fingers? She's like, no, you can't chop off their fingers, even the ones that don't do anything. And then they laugh, and she kind of says like, I never
Yeah,
thought
like
you
the
guys were being
small ones.
serious. Yeah.
Yeah.
Vivenna then begins pacing while talking to Denth, who notes she's being very impatient. And Vivenna realizes she's being a lot like Ciri, and she like kind of
Mm-hmm.
sits and tries to calm herself down. We also learn that Denth has multiple safe houses around the city, and they're all pretty like cheap like this one because if you have to have multiple safe houses, you're not really gonna pay a lot for them.
Yeah, why would you?
Yeah.
I mean, that makes so much
I
sense.
mean, she just seems really sturdy on the inside. I'm assuming they find places like that are cheap as possible, but still like they're gonna hold up. They're not gonna fall apart.
I would hope so. I mean, yeah, like you don't want your house falling apart,
Although I
even
think
if it is a safe house.
there is like broken steps and stuff. She's told not to like wander in the house. They're like it's not the safest place.
You
Um,
know,
but Venna
neither
then
is being a fugitive. So
Yeah. Vivenna then thinks about how she feels useless and that most of what is being done is because of Denth and not herself. So we get back into like a lot of that useless stuff that we'd had in previous chapters when like she didn't get sent off to be with the God King. She
mm-hmm.
briefly wishes she would have been found and brought back to Idris, but also still really wants to help her people and her sister. She's kind of like conflicted. She's like, it'd be easier if I was just taken back, but she wants to be of use. And Vivenna states that she really wants to meet with the other Idrians and be useful. Dent
Yeah, the
mentions
Indians. Yeah.
Idrians. Dent mentions that she's at least slightly more useful here than in Idris, as her father has other heirs. Do you think Vivenna is going to be able to do anything in the city, or it will continue to be mainly Dent and his crew that makes everything happen?
Well, when she becomes a goddamn awakener,
She
she
doesn't
can do a
want
lot.
to.
I know, but she needs to, and that's the thing. I think she's going to be forced into doing it, kind of like she was forced into taking the breaths in the first place. She's going to become an awakener, and she's actually going to be really good at it. And then we'll get to see some awesome Vivenna fighting. That would be amazing.
You think she's gonna become
Yeah,
a badass?
she
Yes.
has so much power right
I
now
mean, she's
on
already
top
a
of
badass,
it.
but badass in a different way.
Suddenly Vivenna sees Claude right next to her stool, and is told that sometimes he'll
Oh,
wander
yeah.
up to people as if he's curious. Vivenna has Dent send Claude to the basement. We then learn that Jules's breath was sold to a god when she was a child. Vivenna mentions that people change when they're drab, but Dent disagrees, saying Jules would have been the same either way. So Vivenna's like, oh, if without your soul, you're like irritable and people don't really like being around you and all this stuff. And Dent's like, nah, that's just her. But yeah, do you
That's
think
just her.
do you think Claude can be curious? Do you think he has human traits like Tonkfa kind of like seem to think he has, or you think Denth
Oh,
is
I
right?
think he's like the God King. I think he's gonna one day learn more than he people think he is knows.
I
Mm.
I don't. He's a lifeless, so I don't think so
Yeah. What you got
because
against lifeless, huh?
you literally called them tools. Calm
They are
down.
tools. They are tools. But what do
You
you got
called them
against them?
life soulless. So I'm taking
Uh,
that into
for,
account.
yeah, first off, they are soulless.
Yes. Hmm.
Doesn't mean you can't have a personality if you don't have a soul.
Well, you're not really there if you don't have a soul. So
I mean, maybe they don't have a soul, but then maybe the soul's not what they need.
maybe it's I don't know.
That's it. Let's slug it out. Come on.
um, Yeah, so the
Just
end of the chapter is Jules returns and says she has confirmed that Thame seems to be who he says he was. She says she confirmed with like three different people who she kind of trusts. Uh,
Kind of. That's my favorite part of that. Kind
yeah.
of trust. Kind of trust them.
And they agree to go back to the house. It's just they reluctantly head back to their main house there. That is the end of the chapter. So I've got several overview questions as per normal. So first of all, where do you think Ciri and Susebron's relationship is going?
Right into romance.
You think they're actually going to be romantic with each other?
No, that was a joke. I don't think they're gonna be. I think they're gonna be more of like she's gonna teach him how the world works,
Think they're going to be like more like really close friends type thing, allies?
and then they're gonna and then she's gonna start to speak up, and he's gonna have to, for lack of a better word, grow a voice.
oh god. Yeah, I agree.
I mean, it's just how it's gonna have to be,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Do you think the same darkness? You think they're going to be like a best friends, allies against everything type of relationship?
Yeah,
It
but
could be.
I also think there is possibilities of eventual romantic like feelings.
Mm.
No, because she has to be with lights on. Can't.
I didn't say between who. I was talking about the God King and Scoot, you know?
Oh yeah. True. I can see that. I can see that. But I mean, we already know that ain't gonna be happening. But because Midnight spoiled that for us. So.
I mean, I'm
Wow.
sorry. Well, I said there's not really much like LGBT stuff in the
Yeah. So.
books.
Well, it's a god, so technically, no.
Uh, I mean, technically, they're not. They're gender fluid, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so my next question was, what do you think we'll learn once Susebron is able to communicate better? Like, do you think he's gonna, once he like learns to like read and potentially like, I'm assuming he might learn to write and stuff, and he can communicate. What do you think?
He's gonna write off with their heads and just slaughter everyone.
Yeah. Right. I mean, if you have, I mean, it would be an interesting thing to see of him starting to show like what true power is, like as a king, and then like them to come around and be like, well, we're not going to listen to that all of a sudden, where they're like talking a lot about how the God King's word is like law.
And he's buff everyone.
Yeah, and then if he just came in and was like those people that are manipulating everything, if he just came in and was like, I want you, and you did, like, I mean,
I feel like I feel like if he spoke up, they would imprison him.
you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What if they do imprison him after he like tries to like be defiant, and then Sirius like, you know what, rescue mission time.
Let's rescue the God King. That
So
yeah,
yes.
I can see that happening.
Yeah. My next question was, where do you think Basher's story is going? What all do you think he's gonna be doing here?
He's gonna die. Nightblood's gonna have to find a new person. All that stuff.
AKA Vivanna. No.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that would be awesome. I would love to see that actually happen. No, I'm kind of leaning on the same thing that Darkness was saying last podcast, that he's gonna have to teach her. They're gonna have to kind of get over the fact that he's the person they don't like, and yeah.
Uh-huh,
I see.
I
for
mean,
sure.
they definitely seem very quick to tell Vivenna that she can't basically have her own ideas about certain things. Like, oh well, if you don't want this lifeless here, I guess then we'll just leave too. Like, you don't give her much of a choice there.
Well, to be fair, like I mean, they say they spend a lot of money in like jewels as part of their crew and stuff. And I mean, if some of your theories are correct, maybe they also knew Claude.
Mm-hmm. Possibly.
So I feel like
But I
they
mean,
let her
like,
have a lot of her own ideas, and just in regards to like how their crew works, they're like, no, no, no. It's either all of us or
well,
none of us.
yeah, but that's what I'm saying. So like, if Vasher become, well, he was once possibly a part of their crew,
Hmm.
but like if Vivenna's like
Oh, I
comes
see.
out and goes, "Hey, Vasher needs to be with, needs I need to learn from Vasher," and they're like, "Nah, we don't want that." Like, she's gonna have to put her foot down
Hmm.
and have a voice, and they seem to, they're not like quelling her voice, but they're definitely like, they're giving her ultimatums.
Hmm.
Like, she kind of has to, have her own voice if she's going to ever uh, become the savior that she kind of wants to be.
Hmm.
Can't save Siri without it.
So yeah, that kind of got into my next question with what do you think's gonna happen if Vasher and Dent's crew end up meeting?
Conflict, but hopefully they'll come to understanding. And I feel like they're going to find out what actually happened to this person.
Harsh
Yeah,
deal.
for sure.
Yeah, like I feel
And
like
I'm a bit,
it's something with the sword in some aspect. Like he wasn't as good as he was. They think he is. They're
yeah.
obviously going. He's gonna if Vasher tells them that, they're obviously going to push back on that thought because they obviously have some uh, uh, interest in, like they actually liked him.
Hmm.
So I feel like they'll push back on that thought, and then somehow they'll have to come to an understanding. Because I feel
Mhm.
like he needs to be there. He needs to teach her how to become an awakener.
Yep.
He's obviously a very good one, Mister. I can put breaths into uh, my pants and make me fall from heights without getting hurt.
I just carry around squirrels to awaken.
Yeah, right. Oh my goodness.
I love that he just pulled out the fucking squirrel out of his belt.
And squirrel, here you go. We'll just awaken this with one breath.
I think Nightblood even makes a comment about that being kind of gross or something, doesn't he?
Yeah, I feel like that sounds familiar.
I think
I'm
it might
pretty
have
sure it literally said ill.
been. Yeah.
Yeah, like, do what you got to do, man. Asher's ingenuitive.
What do
Yep.
you think,
Definitely.
Darkness? What do you think about what's gonna happen between Basher and Dent's crew if they meet?
No, I definitely agree with Mythic. There is gonna be a strong possibility that Vasher's definitely gonna look into the Venomore and then possibly train her.
Hmm.
I feel like I don't know why, but I feel like there's gonna be some hesitation on Vasher's side.
I think there's gonna be hesitation on both sides,
Well, Dent seems to think
Savannah
that
and him.
Vasher would want to kill Vivenna if they ever meet.
I
I,
doubt it.
I think that's just
okay.
their like
I could
because
see
they're
it.
against Vasher, they don't like him, so they think
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I think that's more of what it is. But I could see his idea being somewhat true. I mean, he does kind of seem like he, wants the death of some people, but I don't know if it's going to be just, her uh, exactly.
Hmm.
I don't think he's on her side really though either.
Yeah. Well, as we learned in previous chapters, like
He could
uh
have killed her already. So
I mean,
Yeah, he
Vasher
definitely could
definitely
have.
has plans. He
Yep,
said previously, like Siri showing up was like gonna
not part of
complicate
him.
his plans. So like,
Yeah,
I can't imagine Vivenna being there is gonna complicate his plans any less.
yeah.
right.
Whatever those plans may end up being, it seems like if one Idrian princess there complicates it, I don't feel like a second
Two would
Idrian
probably
princess is
make
gonna
it
make
even
it
worse.
better. Yeah.
I agree 100% on that one too.
Because yeah, they've said they also mentioned that Vasher specifically has an interest in the war. We don't know if that's like
So
he
what's that interest? Yeah,
yeah, we don't know if
whether it's
that
which
interest is like
side.
getting rid of the war or starting the war or what that.
Or watching the war. No,
Or
just
breaking the war. No,
or being the war.
nah. What are you talking about? Vasher couldn't be a war.
I mean,
Could barely
he's
be a
got a lot of
god.
breath too. If you're saying Vivenna could awaken an army, he's also got a lot of breath.
Oh yeah, he could
Oh
create an army.
yeah.
An
Oh
army of
yeah.
dead squirrels.
His
Eh.
army of
Imagine.
squirrels. Bite everyone but me.
Now I command it.
Make sure you have rabies.
Rabies. I forgot a note earlier.
Mm,
can't remember what the word was then because I didn't write it down. But when she was teaching the God King, she addressed a letter. She said, "This is the letter," and then something with an S.
Shash, I believe it was.
Yeah,
Letter Shash.
That's pretty. It's pretty neat that they have that he has his own dialect. In this,
yeah, there's other books of his in the series Stormlight Archive where he specifically has like basically like this
the
whole
alphabet.
like language and alphabet, and like you'll see he has like picture like drawings in some of before some chapters, and you'll actually be able to see the like what the writing looks like, which I don't know what
Can
any
you
of the
find
writers
that?
for Stormlight. I mean, it's not the same language. It's a different language.
Oh,
I'm pretty
okay.
sure. I'm just saying
So
like
it's not this
he does
language.
do
Okay.
like his own
I
like
gotcha.
letter systems and everything. Um, but yeah, I don't know what the
Yeah.
letters look like in this book because he doesn't have the like drawings in them. Because Stormlight's a much newer series, so he um has like more like artists that he's like um hired and stuff to do things in that way. And
I
I'll also
gotcha.
say that his newer
He's
books do have
gotten
some
better.
more LGBT hints in them than his older books.
You did say that before too, yeah.
Yeah,
That
so
his older books don't have as much, but like
his older
he
books don't
came
really, but yeah,
around.
newer books definitely do.
Yeah, he came around a little more. But what I was gonna say about that is that it gives me like I put LOTOR, but Lord of the Rings vibes, where J.R.R. Tolkien made his own entire language, which I 100% agree is awesome. And I feel like there are going to be people kind of like you who highly enjoy these books and then, learn that language. And that would be pretty neat to see. Like an actual person, IRL, that like starts to speak like them in this book or what was it? I don't remember what the other one you just said was, but the other
Stormlight?
book you were just talking about. Yeah. There you go.
Well, it's not one book. That's I think his main
Series.
series right now. He's got 2 series and then a bunch of novels. So his 2 series are Mistborn and Stormlight. And then he's got Elantris and Warbreaker are the 2 main just kind of set alone, and then he's got a book of short stories as well. But anyway, just probably get back to the questions stuff going on about his other stuff.
Yep.
Where was I? Do you have any other thoughts on Nightblood? After all the information we got.
You mean the god? You mean the god?
I mean the sword that we and what we
No, I mean
know about him.
you mean the god. You mean the god Nightblood. I got
Sure.
you. Yeah, I mean, I think he's a god.
I already gave out everything. So.
Yeah, I just wanted to know if there was any final thoughts, because I know sometimes, especially you Darkness, you'll like, as we go through other stuff, you'll remember notes or like think about stuff more. Sometimes you bring stuff up later.
Yeah.
Give a chance in case you had thought up anything after we had talked about it. So, next question was, what do you think Lightsong plans to discuss with Blushweaver?
Hopefully, stay away from me. I love Siri. Something about that kind of idea. Don't come near me anymore.
By any miracle, he might actually try and find out what she's trying to do.
Possible.
Maybe he's slowly starting to see that he has to step in.
Yeah, that he actually has to take a part in politics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think he does mention like again in these chapters that like he's like, oh, Larimar told me to do my best. I guess I'll try.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
He does seem to have taken that to heart.
Somewhat, yeah.
I thought they also mentioned something like not doing anything would have been more.
Yeah, he did say at one point that like potentially not doing anything might actually be more work at this point than actually doing something.
Yeah.
So. And he does seem worried about Siri. He doesn't like everyone kind of like trying to manipulate her.
Yeah.
Love interest.
think this question we've already covered. What do you think will happen when Mavenna meets up with the Idrians?
Mm,
Chaos.
she'll see how they're treated badly, and then become an awakener.
I
I just
don't
want her to
trust
become an
it.
awakener. She definitely needs to be.
I don't know why. I really don't trust it.
Oh, you don't trust them?
No.
You think they're tricking her or something? I mean, it sounds like they've all been in really shitty
Not
situations and working for
necessarily
like
tricking
seeds.
her,
Mm.
but like
You think
stuff
they're
can go
manipulated?
wrong. Stuff can go wrong. And I feel like at least one of them is gonna be like, you know what? Let me sell myself up, because I mean, it's London and they're Asian people, so I wouldn't be surprised if they do, quote unquote, get corrupted and what she would consider corruption.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
I mean,
See.
maybe one of them will try to sell her out while she's there.
I half-heartedly agree with you. I think that they're probably going to uh, be. They're not maybe not as corrupted, but like I think they're going to be manipulated to
Uh-huh.
to get her to come there by somebody. I don't think it's going to be like the government. I think it's going to be one of these factions that.
Yeah, like the dude that was trying to kill her. I mean, sell her. I mean, buy
Yeah,
her. Buy her. Yeah.
Graywell, yeah,
by
he
her.
wanted
Yeah.
he wanted to buy her because he didn't think she was the real princess. He's like, oh, you found someone who has the royal lock. She'd be useful.
Yeah, to do exactly what he thinks they're doing,
Yeah.
which is manipulate people into doing his bidding, what he
I
wants.
I don't know. I found it really strange how much that guy knew.
Well, I mean, as we said, like people have been selling information. They've been doing this apparently for like a week or two, going around to all these meetings, and so they're going to like multiple a day,
Mm-hmm.
talking to people.
Yeah. I still don't trust it.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, Dent also does say like they're very worried about people like spying on them and like keeping
yep.
track of them. Like they're doing very dangerous work right now.
Yeah.
Isn't that what mercenaries do, though? Dangerous work.
Hazard pay.
Yeah, exactly. Anything
Yeah,
else?
just any final thoughts or predictions on the book in general?
Yeah. My thoughts are we should go from 22 to 54.
No, we're not doing that.
Okay.
Darkness.
Sorry, had to mute car. Um,
Do you second my opinion, Darkness?
yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Just have a like 20-hour podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Or here's the thing, right? We could we could slam it all into one stream,
Oh my
and then
gosh.
you could edit it into however many episodes of podcast.
The thing is though that you guys would have future knowledge, and we can't have that.
No, because we can read it on stream.
Oh gosh.
We could read it
make
all
it
together,
make it
and
a
then
48-hour
yeah,
stream.
yeah, exactly. Actually,
Gosh.
wait one second. How much? It wouldn't be a 14-hour stream, would it? Let's second. I think
I,
it'd
I,
be longer.
I
I
think
said
it'd be
48.
longer. We
Yeah,
still
one
got like
second. I can tell you how long
400
it'll be.
pages.
Yeah, I can tell you how long it would be.
Um,
It'd be a 15-hour stream.
oh my gosh. That's not including questions and discussion though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
No,
It would be
but no, to read the book, I meant.
Yeah.
To read the book, it
Um,
would be a 15-hour stream.
but anyway, so I think next episode we're going to be doing chapters 23, 24, 25, and 26. 4 chapters again.
Oh my goodness, you're killing me with these 4 chapters.
It's the same like page word number amount.
But I don't look at pages.
It's the
uh,
same length of content. I'm sorry, it's only 4 chapters. It's just they're longer chapter. Like, do you? Chapter 2022 was like half this reading. It was like 30 pages.
was it?
Yeah, it was like
Huh.
30 pages out of the 50 something
Yeah, it was
pages.
a very long. It was a very long chapter.
So these chapters are just they're just longer. That's why it's less chapters. We're doing 4 chapters this week. And we're doing 4 chapters for a bit still.
If you leave me on a cliffhanger, I'm gonna be so sad.
I just did it
First
by
off, first
I
off,
just did it
Darkness.
by
It's
amount of
going to
content.
happen.
It
She's
is gonna
already
happen.
stated it's going to happen. We are going to get left on a cliffhanger, which
Oh.
is
Well, I'm
Frustrating.
gonna live read a cliffhanger, so you guys technically won't be stuck on it. You guys can go right back
Oh
into
my
reading after the
god.
podcast. There's a
I can
chapter that is literally one paragraph, and I'm gonna live read it to you guys on episode 10.
Well, what episode are we on right now? 5?
This is 5.
Yeah.
It's I think chapter 45. I'm gonna live read that chapter to you guys so that you're not left on a cliffhanger.
you're gonna be like, and her engine exploded.
Yeah, exactly. Or everybody died all of a sudden out of
Basher
nowhere.
kills
Just
everyone.
no, Nightblood kills everyone.
Yeah.
And then
Uh,
Vasher kills Nightblood. No.
but yeah, so just the 4 chapters next time. Uh,
Nightblood.
and again, it'll be as always next Sunday. So
At the
yeah, thank you
same around the
guys.
same time, always.
Yep.
Yes, thank you guys so much. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.